I'm Ellis Martin. Join me for a conversation with Kyle Floyd, Chairman and CEO of VOX Royalty, trading as VOX on the TSX Venture Exchange and in the U.S. on the OTC as VOXCF. VOX is a high-growth precious metals royalty and streaming company with a portfolio of over 50 royalties and streams, spanning 8 jurisdictions. The company was established in 2014 and has since built unique intellectual property, a technically focused transactional team, and a global sourcing network which has allowed VOX to become the fastest-growing company in the royalty sector. Since the beginning of 2019, VOX has announced over 20 separate transactions to acquire over 45 royalties. Mr. Floyd created the concept, built the team, and raised the capital required to commence VOX's operations as a metal royalty and streaming company. He is responsible for general operations and strategic direction of the business and has helped lead the company to becoming one of the fastest growing mining royalty businesses over the past 2 years. Prior to VOX, Mr. Floyd held the position of Vice President Practice Lead of the Global Mining Investment Banking Department at Roth Capital Partners from 2007 to 2013. During his time with the company, he led the international OTCQX and cross-border listing advisory group and led business development execution on all mining transactions, ultimately financing and advising nearly $1 billion over more than 60 transactions, including M&A assignments, private placements of debt and equity, IPOs, and follow-on offerings. Kyle holds a Bachelor of Business and Corporate Finance from the University of Washington and attended the Master of Science program in Mineral Economics from the Colorado School of Mines. Kyle, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Ellis. It's good to be back.
I wanted to chat about this news release that just came out on November 22nd. The third quarter results for 2021 are very, very nice. And let's review that, beginning with revenue reported for the quarter.
Yeah, so we announced revenue of $1.2 million US for the quarter, and that was on the basis that we saw really production records from a few of our different royalty assets, namely our Koolyanobbing iron ore royalty and our Dry Creek royalty, which covers some of the Higginsville project for Karora. So it was exciting for us to see those production records, and it really speaks volumes of what our investors can expect going forward, as we would expect a lot of the projects that we have in the portfolio that are going to be coming into production, complemented by what's already in production, to continue to grow revenues and continue to increase the value for VOX shareholders.
And of course, you've increased your producing royalty assets to 5 following the achievement of commercial production at the Segilola gold mine, correct?
Indeed. And I think it's important to remind the listeners out there that we went public in May of last year with 1 producing asset. The market was pretty clear to us in that we like your business model of finding assets that are typically near production where you can find really good value, but really wanting to see us validate that we were going to have this type of production level growth. And so we've delivered that, and we're going to continue delivering that. It's exciting to see this validation occur. You can see in some of our numbers the gross margin that we're realizing on our revenues. It's some of the highest in the industry. And that's on the basis that we're finding really good value in what we're buying. So it's an exciting period of time for VOX shareholders and investors. We have a tremendous amount of growth in front of us. And again, this quarterly results is just further evidence of that.
And just what we've seen in the market since you began trading here and sponsoring this program, by trading here, I mean trading in the U.S. on the OTCQX in the middle of August, it's been very astounding for a new company.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, we're working hard in all facets of the business in terms of increasing investor awareness, continuing to build the fundamentals. I think the royalty sector and VOX in particular is a really good home for investors right now. Inflation's very real. It's somewhat of a new challenge for investors. This is the highest number in 30 years. And so most investors today, or at least a lot, have not had to deal with the inflation concerns as acutely as they're dealing with them today. And VOX is really well presented for investors right now to find an inflation hedge. We're not exposed to the cost structure of the mining assets that we have royalties over that are experiencing the same inflation that we as consumers are. But we are seeing that buoyancy in the equity prices and the ability for a lot of the projects we have royalties over to continue to develop ahead of what we expected. And so that's what you continue to see throughout the portfolio. It's a lot of what we've talked about in our earnings, and that's been demonstrated in the income statement and our balance sheet. So for investors looking for inflation hedges, I think royalty companies are a great place to be. And I think VOX is really second to none in that capacity.
Probably some of the best in the mining space, at least, given that you're almost immune, I won't say entirely immune, to market trends, good or bad. You just keep on going, and you're involved in construction in Western Australia. That's a big project. $73 million worth of capital will be deployed in that that particular area, it just seems like you've mitigated a lot of risk with this business model.
Yeah, we found really good value. And that's our mining engineers at the front line, mining engineers and geologists at the front lines of our business doing the hard work for investors. And evidence is that we continue to find really good value. These royalties are surfacing and they're entering into production and continuing to crystallize when those production dates are going to be. And that's really, a very significant re-rating event for royalty companies and the underlying value of the royalty themselves. And there has not been another company like VOX that's been able to find this portfolio of royalties at really good value for our shareholders and has been able to demonstrate and validate the growth that exists organically in our portfolio. And for your listeners, what that means is we have so much growth happening within the portfolio right now, and we're not paying anything more for that. Our operating partners are funding hundreds of millions of dollars to advance these projects in drilling and development works. And so you as a shareholder in VOX get the benefit of that. And we're not having to pay for it. And we're not diluted when we don't pay for it. So it's all the growth, it's all the buoyancy of this market. And it continues to manifest in our portfolio. We continue to put out this news. And so investors can expect that the growth of VOX is going to continue. I believe it's going to continue to outperform expectations. And we're really excited about it. And some of those key points are in this press release. Obviously, the construction award at Mount Ida. Recall that was a royalty that we found buried in a hearing aid company. We bought that 2 years before it ever was kind of showing the signs that it is now that it's going to be in production. Obviously, with the EPC contract that really crystallizes around that. Segilola just announced commercial production in the third quarter. We bought that over a year ago prior to it entering into production. And then we have a host of projects. We have 3 that we expect to enter production this year. And we have 5 engineering studies that are coming out over projects that are significantly advancing what's organically already in our portfolio. And the growth of these underlying assets is exceeding our expectations. So it's just a really exciting time to be a VOX shareholder and a manager of this business.
And the share structure is really sweet, isn't it?
Well, we've really focused on creating a really good format for investors to get inflation hedges and exposure in what we believe is going to be a very, very buoyant time for commodity prices. And one of the ways that we try to do that is we try to keep a pretty simple capital structure. We have no debt. We have about $10 million of working capital, and we continue to be well positioned to execute on our growth strategies and also not have to go back to the equity market. So we believe we're in a really unique position for our shareholders, and we're continuing to execute the business plan.
Kyle, thanks so much for the update. Good news here, and I wish you all the best in the coming months. Thanks again for joining me today on the program. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Ellis. Always a privilege.
I've been speaking with Kyle Floyd, Chairman and CEO of VOX Royalty, trading as VOX on the TSX Venture Exchange and in the U.S. on the OTC as VOXCF. For the complete story, head to the company's website, voxroyalty.com. I'm Ellis Martin.
Would you like to be one of the first to see who we are following? Subscribe to our audio newsletter. It's free. EllisMartinReport.com.